Welcome back in, everyone. We are joined by Dr. Amina Kazi with St. Joseph Health. You are a cardiologist with St. Joseph Healthcare, so thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So it is not just Heart Health Month, but Women's Heart Health Month, and we'll get to that in a moment. But first, let's just start by talking about sort of the overarching prevalence of heart disease in both men and women.
Sure. I mean, I think the most important thing to point out is that heart disease is the most common killer of people in the United States of America and most of the Western world. It is an illness that largely is preventable. So that's what's so interesting about it, is that there are lots of things that we can do to prevent heart disease within our lifetime. And in order to truly understand that, you have to understand the risk factors that make you susceptible to having heart disease.
Right.
So the general risk factors in all comers, men and women, are having a family history of heart disease, having high blood pressure, having diabetes, having elevated cholesterol or high cholesterol numbers, being overweight, certainly leading a sedentary lifestyle or not exercising on a regular basis. All in smoking. Smoking is another big one. So those are all things that we can affect by just lifestyle changes. There are things, however, that are more unique to women.
Right, because you guys are spotlighting Women Heart Health Month too. So you're looking at the whole the problem as a whole, but obviously there are nuances that affect us a bit more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in the cardiology world, we don't necessarily call them absolute risk factors, but there are certainly what we call risk enhancers.
Okay.
So for example, throughout the lifetime of a female, there are things that can make her more susceptible to heart disease. So, in young girls who hit or start their period at a younger age, typically the cutoff we use is 10 years of age or younger. Okay. The lifetime risk in those young girls of heart disease is higher compared to girls who start their period a little bit later. Yeah. And then, during the reproductive years when women get pregnant, having pregnancy-related complications like hypertension during pregnancy and diabetes during pregnancy in particular, those are the two big ones that will sometimes double your future risk of heart disease. So it's very important to know those facts about your history. And then, of course, when women hit menopause, there are dramatic changes in all of your systems.
Yep.
And certainly, that the risk of heart disease sort of goes up significantly at that point in life.
Yeah.
So those are things that are unique. But I think there are other things too. So women typically when they come in with heart attacks, they usually come in with atypical symptoms. So they may not necessarily have classic symptoms of a heart attack. So
like the chest pain and the tightness on the left side, I think it usually is. Those are some of the things that we always hear about.
Yeah.
It's not like that for women?
It's not necessarily like that. I mean, I've been doing this for 17 years, and I will say that women can come in with a constellation of symptoms. And so I think it's very important to be diligent, especially, at the first responder level, the emergency departments, to look for, things like heart disease and a heart attack in women compared to men. And also, there has always been, if you look at sort of the early history of cardiology, we've always in the past associated heart disease with men, but actually that is highly inaccurate, and thankfully the medical community is catching up to that, so we understand that heart disease is very prevalent in women.
Yeah.
I mean, today, for example, if you look at the statistics, there are 60 million women in the United States alone that are suffering with heart disease.
60 million.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and it's interesting, the other myth that existed within the cardiology world is that it becomes more prevalent in women once they hit menopause.
Right.
But that actually is not necessarily the case. So if you look at women under the age of 45, 10,000 women a year under the age of 45 will have a heart attack.
Yeah.
And if you look at the prevalence of heart attacks and heart disease in men and women, it is really at the age of 40 or younger where women are less likely to have heart disease. But any female over the age of 40 will have just as much of a chance of having heart disease and heart problems as a man. So I think those are all important things for all of us to be educated about.
Well, we thank you for coming in and sharing your knowledge, and I guess the takeaway overall is that don't think that the traditional things that you've always heard necessarily apply. So educate yourselves, learn how to prevent it, and talk to your doctors.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and take care of yourself. And I want to say hi to my son. Hi, Rizwan.
We got a shout out in. Thank you so much, Dr. Kazi. We appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Guys, we'll be back with our extended forecast.